2024. Firstly, of course, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today and this week. Many people have travelled far for this, so we really appreciate it. We've got great representation from National Weather Services, other public sector bodies, academia, international organisations, including WMO, of course, NGOs, and also private sector solution providers. So thank you, everybody, for attending this. Also, well, special thanks to all the South African institutions and agencies that have turned up. We really appreciate the support and, quite surprised at the interest. So thank you for the host country here. So for those who have attended Verition events before, of course, we are the organisers of this, but really this isn't for us, these events. This is for everybody here. We essentially curate this content through consultation with stakeholders in the industry. We've been running roundtables for some months, thanks to Kerry, who's put this together, and we really listen to what the major issues are. Also, we've run surveys which have helped sort of define the content for this. So, really we wanted to make the content of the next 3 days relevant to the continent and the industry and to everybody here. So, are you up with the So what we have here, so Tom Copping, many of you might know him. He's the CEO of Verition. He couldn't attend it today, so he wanted to do a short message for everybody. He's actually having a baby, so he's prioritised that over this, and that's fine. We'll let him off. So here we go.
Hello, many of you know me, some of you don't. My name's Tom. I'm the CEO of Verition. I'd like to apologise. The event in Pretoria is our flagship event. It's the best event we do. I'm married to a Nigerian, so Africa is part of my home, but I can't make it. And I really apologise for not being able to make it, but my wife is having a child. African meteorology has taken a hit over the last sort of 15, 20 years, but things have changed and in such a good way. You've got two programs, Early Warnings for All and SOF, which there are many beneficiaries in Africa for those particular programs. There is a lot of money going into Africa at the moment in general, because I don't think anyone is not in the know that we've got some problems going on at the moment with the weather, and it's likely to continue for a while. I'm good friends with Celeste Saulo, the Secretary General of the WMO. We've talked about these things intermittently over the last sort of 5-6 months. And, we're on an upward struggle, and we're going to face a lot more problems which need to have solutions. So, when we do these events, we're doing these events so that the public sector and the private sector can come together and actually discuss these issues. What we like to try and do is put it in a really nice setting, so that there's no barriers, because a lot of the time there's a barrier where the private sector the public sector will be feeling that the private sector is trying to sell to them, and the private sector might find it difficult to be speaking with the public sector without coming across salesy. The point of this event is that there's interaction, there's talking, and there's solutions. It's not just about what's available, it's also about what's not available and what we can do together to try and formulate and come up with the right solutions. And the more and more our events happen, the more and more these things are happening, and we are getting some results from them. So over the next 3 days, I really want you guys, everyone in here, to be talking to one another, okay? Because we're all in this together. Without the private sector, there's no solutions. Nothing will happen. There's no forecasting or monitoring, anything like that. It can't work. Without the public sector, there's no one to initiate it. There's no one to actually be there for the last mile, to actually be helping citizens to solve some of these issues so that they don't die. There's some major concerns, but we're putting this event together so that we can come to solutions. So if you can, and you can come away with something, please email me, because I'd love to hear about it, because that is why we're here. That's what we do. Public-private engagement. It's been banded around for many years now, but we really take this on. You know, it's about engaging with one another. Again, I'm saying it again, but to find those solutions. So I really hope everyone has a great time. I'm really, really sorry that I can't be there. I'm gutted, in fact, but you know, I think it's a pretty good excuse to have when your wife's about to give birth. So, yeah, have a good one and have a drink on me on the drinks evening. And yeah, I hope that this is an outstanding 3 days for all of you. Okay, thank you.
Right, thanks, Tom. So the next 3 days are going to be laid out in sort of 3 thematic areas. Today was looking at early warning systems. There's a focus on hydrology tomorrow, and then finally there's going to be capacity building and then bridging the gap for day 3 as a wrap up. Now, of course, outside of presentations, panel sessions, the exhibition over there, we've kind of got 3 new initiatives that we're trying to do here. So some of them might be a little bit chaotic, so bear with us whilst we're ironing out the kinks of these. But essentially, we've got speed networking. We've got what we're calling the wall of gaps. As you can see, no expense spared in the branding. And then we have statements of intent, basically. So let me just explain those very briefly before we get into the first real presentation. So speed networking, in the other room, there's I think 7 tables out there. We're basically going to be, all the delegates are going to be sitting around on the tables, and then the private sector, the solutions providers are going to have 5 minutes on each table to kind of explain what they do. It's really a chance to, I guess, have a bit of fun with it, but also you can earmark any solutions that you then want to continue talking to later on, basically. So that'll be fun, chaotic, but good. The wall of gaps. This is really, we're looking, well, gaps / challenges, I suppose. We're looking for people. There's going to be post-it notes out on the table here next to Katie. And we want people to write on, like, what are the biggest gaps? What are the biggest challenges, whether it's you as a National Weather Service or challenges that you're aware of just being in the industry. And we want to get them on the wall. And then we'll review those in the final session and see if we can get a good snapshot of, you know, what are the most common issues and problems here. Lastly, we've got these forms here called the statement of intent. So the feedback from our events has always been, we need some follow-up, some action, right, after the words have been spoken. This is a way for you guys to write down, you know, whether it's, I want to, you know, arrange that meeting with a new partner, I want to follow up that new idea, I want to follow up with a sponsor, whatever it is, you can write this down, bring it away with you, and there's some kind of action after the, you know, the discussions have been held. So again, thank you very much for everybody for coming. We hope to bring a lot of value to you over the next 3 days. It'll be good fun as well. There's a drinks reception tonight after the speed networking, actually, so that'll be great, just out on the veranda, other side of the exhibition hall. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, our honoured guest, Dr. Kajazi, the Director of the WMO Regional Office for Africa, and I'll hand over to you. So thank you, everybody, and enjoy the day.
Thank you very much for inviting us to be part of this important meeting. First of all, I would like to recognize the presence of Vice President of HydrometAFRICA, Dr. Aderitu. And I would also like to recognize the presence of all permanent representatives with WMO who are here. We are happy to be part of this. And as Tom said, with challenges we have of climate change, I think public-private engagement is the way to go. I'm going to speak about the match hazard early warning for all, action plan that was just launched last year in Nairobi during the Africa Climate Week. And as you may recall, we had a global executive action plan that was launched during COP27 in Egypt. Then for Africa, we had to downscale that to a regional level, and this is the one I'm going to present. You can help me from there.
Yeah.
Just go to the second slide, please.
Mhm.
The next one. As an introduction, as I said, the African Action Plan is born out of the need to regionalize the executive action plan. And we involved partners in the development of this plan. It outlines initial actions required to achieve the goal of ensuring every person on Earth is protected by early warning systems. This is just for 5 years, starting from 2023 up to 2027. And this is in line with the member-driven UN Secretary General call that was made in March 2022. The action plan is also motivated by the fact that Africa faces significant challenges in the implementation of early warning services. We therefore think that is important as early warning seeks to enhance the capacity of countries to provide timely and effective warning information to its systems. The action plan will provide the required guidance on the possible interventions across the pillars. Can we go to the next, please? As I said, stakeholders were involved in the development of this plan, and the aim is to bridge the gap and build upon ongoing regional early warning efforts. And it is intended to provide strategic direction for member states and stakeholders in addressing weather, water, and climate service-related challenges and opportunities. This plan is guided by 3 main principles. The first one, inclusivity, where it is people-centered, ensuring that early warning system cater to diverse needs of different groups, or accessibility, making early warning information available and understandable to all, and also integration. That is emphasizes the need to integrate early warning systems with the existing disaster risk reduction efforts. As we know that before this initiative, there are efforts that were ongoing. Next, please. The plan built on existing framework that include, as I've highlighted here, we have Africa Regional Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction, Program of Action for Implementation of Sendai, Africa Climate Change, Revised Integrated African Strategy for Meteorology, WMO Global Multi-Hazard Alert System, and many others. So it's building on the existing initiatives. Looking at the plan itself, it covers entire value chain of early warning. We have the first section where we have introduction, introducing the need to have this plan, and the downscaling we have from the executive global plan. And in section 2, we have a strategy and a roadmap for the plan. Section 3 is the plan itself, where all pillars, pillar 1 up to pillar 4, are detailed in that section 3. We have disaster risk knowledge and management. This one at global level, led by UNDRR. Pillar 2, observation, monitoring, and forecasting, led by WMO. Pillar 3, dissemination and communication, led by ITU. And Pillar 4, preparedness to response to warning, where we have Red Cross leading this. And section 4 is the section that is very important because it's a cross-cutting enablers where we have the way how we can partnership with the also private sector, financial, coordination, governance, and all things related to resource mobilization is highlighted in section 4 of the plan. Just to give you a sample activities that is highlighted in the plan, for Pillar 1, issues of data and risk assessment are based on the comparable methodologies and tools. Issues of hazard exposure, vulnerability, and coping capacities are highlighted in that Pillar 1. Systematic gaps in human resources, needs to perform early warning and the anticipatory actions are mapped out. Risk maps and data at regional and national level widely available for different natural hazards. These are the activities that are highlighted in that plan, that for each pillar, we need to look at those gaps and make sure that we have activities that can fill these gaps. And for observations, monitoring, and forecasting, our expectation is all countries to have capacity to implement WMO integrated global observing system, WMO unified data policy, and WMO information system. Strengthening upper air observations, improving air quality and air pollution observations. And we expect that by the end of the life of this plan, all observational stations in Africa are connected to global telecommunication system. And we are also looking at strengthening national meteorological and hydrological services, strengthening regional climate centers, and strengthening regional specialized meteorological centers so as to perform operational duties such as subseasonal to seasonal prediction, climate change simulations, and high impact weather forecasting. Next, please. For Pillar 3, some of the sample activities include standard operating procedures on warning, dissemination, should be established by that time, by the life of this plan. And all countries have to update their registries of alerting authorities. So as at a national level, we need to know specifically for the public warning. We know that NMHSs are the authoritative voice at national level. Then if we have these standard operating procedures, we can see how we can support NMHSs to issue this warning timely. And all countries should use the common alerting protocol to disseminate warning and to ensure that warning reach everyone at risk in our continent, African continent. By 2027, to ensure that all people are covered by early warning information through local governments or national dissemination mechanisms. And in this area also, involvement of private sector is important. Preparedness to response to warning, this is Pillar 4. And some of the simple activities for this is existing coordination structures to be in place. And all national and local governments to have a plan to act on early warning, and peer learning mechanism are put in place, which enable effective knowledge and skill. And all countries to have multi-hazard early warning systems, informed action during the life of this plan, that is by the end of 2027. Since the launch of this plan, as I said, it was launched in last year, September, in Nairobi, during the Africa Climate Summit. A number of activities have been done. We have several countries in Africa that have carried out national rollouts and developed their national roadmaps. And many more countries are planning to do their rollouts. And my colleagues from UNDR, I think they will give the detail on this. In the auspices of this action plan, Africa organized a successful roundtable discussion for African ministers present at COP28, where the ministers reaffirmed commitment to implement early warning in the continent. So we have this political support at higher level. During that meeting at COP28, ministers indicated that it is important to make sure that they support implementation of this plan and to make sure that by 2027, we achieve our goal. The president of Kenya was also appointed the WMO regional champion for early warning to spearhead the process. And we have engaged the UN resident coordinators at national level to make sure that all stakeholders in the country are involved in the process. And now efforts in place to enable African countries to develop early warning roadmap for a investment hazard early warning services by 2027, because we have the global one. This one is regional, but we need to have a roadmap at national level because the activities need to be done at national level. And currently we are encouraging this, and this rollout at national level is also looking at this. And now to implement this plan, we have a governance structure looking at the implementation of the plan, and we have the steering committee. This steering committee is providing guidance, is providing oversight and coordination for the implementation of the early warning initiative across the continent. And the steering committee is supported by the technical committee. And we have experts from all pillar leads in terms of UN, and we have also AUC and other people be invited, or other agencies, other institutions will be invited as per the need during the meetings of this technical team and the steering committee. I just wanted to highlight the challenges affecting the implementation of early warning services in Africa. We have the major challenge of data from observational stations. We have the stations in Africa. They are not to the required standard in most of the countries. Hence a need to increase data observational stations. We have these gaps in observation in the continent. There is a need to increase automatic weather stations. But we have SOF that is supporting improving of this network, and we would like to appreciate all those who support through this initiative. But another challenge that we have is minimal transmission of meteorological data to GTS. And there is a need to support programs to enhance data transmission rates to GTS. Because in terms of GBON, a number of countries in Africa, they have identified their GBON stations, but still there is challenge for the flow of data to the GTS. And there is a need to have technical support to countries to make sure that they are able to transmit their data to the GTS. Another challenge is limited capacity for high resolution hydrometeorological modeling to support early warning. As we know, modeling is important for forecasting and early warning. Hence, investment is required in support for higher resolution modeling capabilities in all regional climate centers and increase validation, evaluation of forecasting skills. We need also increase number of skilled personnel in forecasting and NWP. This is the challenge we have in most countries in Africa. We have shortage of skilled staff. Another challenge is the dissemination of risk information, weak understanding of user needs in local content, and weak public response to warning. The dissemination, you can have warning, but warning need to be disseminated timely to users. And this is the challenge that we have in the continent. So we think it's important to make sure that we have support on that. And the analysis indicated that 3/4 members need to increase social media presence and leverage on technology. You can see only 1/4 at least, but 3/4 countries in the continent. This is a big challenge that we think that it's important to look at this and see how we can work together and in this public-private engagement to support members in the continent. And the last statement there, I said the private sector should identify areas they can support the action plan and help improve provision of early warning services in Africa. As I said, that chapter 4 of the plan, there is a place where the role of private sector is well explained. So it's important to look at it and to see how you can support. Thank you. Can I go over questions?
We'll do questions at the end. So we're going to have the other presentations. and
Okay,
then
thank you.
questions. We have
Viola, let me see this. Viola, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you also hear me clearly?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Would you mind sharing
Perfect.
your screen for me?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
So should I go ahead and present, Katie?
Yes, please begin. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Let me just set this up. Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to every one of you. First, I'd like to say thank you to the organizers for making it possible for me to deliver this presentation remotely. My name is Viola Otieno. I work at the Africa Union Commission as an early warning specialist focusing on drought within the AMIWES program. The AMIWES program, so AMIWES stands for the Africa Multi-Hazard Early Warning and Early Action System. And the intention of this presentation is to give an overview or an introduction to the AMIWES program. So I thought I'd start the presentation by contextualizing AMIWES. As I mentioned before, AMIWES stands for Africa Multi-Hazard Early Warning and Early Action Systems. AMIWES is a Pan-Africa continental program endorsed by AU Executive Council through 2 decisions, one in 2019 and the other one in 2022. The general objective of AMIWES is to strengthen the capacities of member states across the continent to develop, utilize, and integrate early warning systems, specifically multi-hazard, as a key tool in disaster risk reduction, but also in climate change adaptation. On the right side of the screen, I've highlighted some of the events, key events or declarations that led up to the formalization of AMIWES. So the AMIWES itself was endorsed in 2022 through the AU Summit of Africa Heads of State and Government, where they endorsed the AMIWES framework and its delivery program. But before that, we had the Nairobi Declaration, which ministers adopted the AMIWES framework. And this was a high level for DRR that happened in Nairobi in 2021. We also have the Tunis Declaration. We also have the Africa Common Position to Global Platform. And we also have the executive decisions of 2019 as well. In terms of background, I think also Dr. Kijazi highlighted this. AMIWAS is anchored on different global and continental frameworks. The global one is the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and this specifically speaks to Target G, which substantially increase availability of access of multi-hazard early warning systems and disaster risk information and assessment. And then based off that, the AUC through with member states as well, developed an African program of action for implementation of Sendai framework. Again, it speaks to Target G, but it also has an additional aspect, which is to harmonize multi-hazard early warning systems and effective response mechanisms as well. Before that, we had the Hugo framework, and before that, we also have the Africa Regional Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction. In terms of outcome of the AMIWAS program, I think we have identified 5 key outcomes. The first one is that multi-hazard risk knowledge is strengthened. The second one is detection, monitoring, analysis, and focusing capacities of member states are strengthened. The third one is multi-hazard risk information is accessible to African public. So this speaks to democratization of risk information. And the fourth one is that early action and preparedness capacities are strengthened as well. And I think one of the important ones is the coordination and governance of multi-hazard early warning system is strengthened. So the question, I think, is why do we need early warning programs at a continental level? And to point this out, I thought of 2 English sayings. The first one is not see the forest for the trees. Sometimes we focus so much on the trees and we miss the forest. And sometimes we focus so much on the forest that we miss the trees. The idea is we have national systems, we have regional systems, but at the same time, we can be able to zoom out and have a continental overview. The other saying is the whole is different than the sum of its parts. And for the longest time, I thought this saying was the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. But only recently I learned that the original version of it is the whole is different than the sum of its parts. Again, it's about being able to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. And essentially what you're saying is that for us to have policy coherence across the continent, we need to have this bigger view. And also for us to be able to have integrated policies, we need to have this bigger view as well. The other reason why it's important is to allow Africa to develop a common African position, for example, on drought, but this can also be on floods and it can also be on early warning systems as well. And these common Africa positions allow Africa to participate articulately within the development of global frameworks, but also to have information to allow Africa to participate effectively within the climate and DRR financing discourse. The other important aspect is for coordination and collaboration, and we're talking about transboundary risk management, but also transboundary intervention as well. So we want to coordinate transboundary risk, but we also want to coordinate transboundary interventions. The other important thing is that having this system at continental level at Africa Union Commission supports the Africa Union processes in arms. One of them is the AU Heads of State and Government Assembly, which makes decisions for the Africa continent. But another one is CAHOSC, which is the AU process that looks into climate change issues across the continent. And we can also have AMSEN as well, which is the AU process that looks into environmental matters as well. So what is the implementation modality for AMIWAS? So AMIWAS is primarily implemented through the situation rooms, and we define the situation rooms as state-of-the-art centers, and sometimes they're also referred to as disaster operation centers. Ideally, the situations room are supposed to be 365, 24/7. So they're meant to run all around the year, monitoring and providing early warning at continental, regional, and national level. So far, we have 4 active situation rooms, one at Africa Union Commission here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Another one at ACMA, the Africa Center of Meteorological Application for Development in Niger. We have one at ECPAC in Nairobi, and the latest one at ECOWAS in Abuja, Nigeria. We're working very hard to finalize the establishment of the Situation Room in ECAS, that's the Economic Community of Central African States, and also in SADC within the SHOC. So in a sense, AMIWAS is a network of situation rooms. And when we talk about situation rooms, it's not just a state-of-the-art center, but it has four main components. It's infrastructure, it's systems, so that means software and standard operating procedure, it's connectivity and interoperability across these different levels, and it's also technical capacity that is provided through trainings and also secondment to Africa Union Commission. Why is connectivity important? Because disasters or hazards are border agnostic, so that means they're transboundary. It's important because we need to coordinate and break the silos as well. And lastly, it's important for effective interventions within and across borders. And by this, we mean we want to ensure that interventions on one side of the border do not cause maladaptation on the other side of the borders. And we can only do this if there is connectivity between the continental, the regional, and the national situation rooms. So on the right side of the screen, I've provided a very simple schematic of the situation rooms. So we have one at the Africa Union Commission, and then we have regional situation rooms at ACMED, IGAD, ECOWAS, and then we have national situation rooms. The one in Tanzania will be launched very soon. We're also working to establish one in Namibia, but we are hoping that over time, and also working in close collaboration with Early Warning for All, we can have more national situation rooms. The most important part of this schematic is the arrows. You have arrows going up and arrows going down. The arrows represent a flow of information. So it means we have information flow from national, regional to continental Africa Union Commission, but we also have information flow from Africa Union Commission to regional to national as well. So what are some of the products that are already being produced through the AMIWAS program? The first one and the inaugural product of AMIWAS is the Continental Watch. So the Continental Watch focuses on fast onset disasters. These are floods, extreme precipitation, and windstorms as well. This product is generated twice a week, and the distribution is by email, and it is co-produced by Africa Union Commission, ACMAD Regional Economic Communities, and CIMA of Italy, which is the technical support institution. So what it means is that every Tuesday and every Friday, staff from AUC, staff from ACMAD, and staff from Regional Economic Communities come together to be able to generate the Continental Watch, which is then disseminated. The second product is in a bid to diversify the hazards, because as I mentioned, AMIWAS is Africa Multi-Hazard Early Warning Early Action Systems. So in a bid to diversify the hazards that the AMIWAS Situation Room is looking at, we have been developing a continental watch on drought as well. We're calling it the Drought in Africa. This is focusing on slow onset for now, just drought. It's a monthly product. Its distribution is by email, and we are currently working on mechanisms to ensure co-production between Africa Union Commission, ACMAD, Regional Economic Communities, and the RCCs as well. I thought it would be interesting to highlight some of the work that the AMIWAS has been doing on the very recent disaster or hazard in Eastern Africa. So on the right side, you see a map of Africa, and on it, you can see the trajectory of Cyclone Hidaya, which just, it hit Tanzania, the coast of Tanzania on, today's Monday, on Saturday. So we were monitoring this from the development, and we were able to tell when it was going to hit land. And the second map is a zoom in on the Cyclone Hidaya. And this map was generated on 3rd May at 15:44 hours. And by then we could tell that the cyclone was going to hit landmass on 4th May. So that was the next day after 3 p.m. We could also look at the rainfall that was surrounding the cyclone as well. So the yellow and the red or pinkish, that's moderate to heavy rainfall. And then you have the light blue, which is a light rainfall. Again, on Cyclone Hidayah, so on 3rd May, which was Friday, ICPAC issued an early warning update, and you can see the early warning update on the right side of the screen. And then the Continental Watch was also issued by email distribution, and it highlighted Cyclone Hidayah on 3rd and mentioned the landfall expected on the next day, 4th. At 7 p.m. on that Friday, AUC organized what we call Anticipatory Action Dialogue, which involved Africa Union Commission, the RCC, Regional Climate Center, ICPAC, and also staff from different departments within Tanzania as well. One of the participants was from MET and another one from the DRR unit. And the point of this anticipatory action dialogue is to just touch base and create that line of communication to understand what is going on and what are the needs as well. To highlight some of the information available in the Continental Drought Watch, you can see the information or the assessment done in beginning of April. At that time, we had drought in Northern Africa, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and we also had drought in Southern Africa. And by that time, 3 countries in Southern Africa had declared national state of emergency. The drought in Southern Africa is El Nino driven, and some of the impacts are field crop and water shortage. On the right side of the screen, you see some of the maps that are available on this particular bulletin. The first one shows you the extent and the severity of the drought conditions. So where you see the yellow, that's moderate drought, and then you have orange severe and red extreme as well. And from the map, you can clearly see the Southern African countries are affected by drought and also the northern one. And right now from our analysis, the rainfall in West Africa is also delaying as well. So that's a watch situation because their season is just starting. On the next map, we look at drought trend. So we do an analysis over the last 3 months just to understand how the drought has been evolving in terms of geography, but also in terms of severity as well. The map at the bottom shows you SPI, which is Standard Precipitation Index. And what I want to point out here is as much as, for example, Zambia is dealing with the current drought, which means the last field rainfall season, what this SPI analysis shows is that Zambia has actually been undergoing a long-term drought. So the point is, as much as we want to put interventions for the current drought and the current situation, we need to also look at interventions that are going to be long-term and how they're going to address the long-term drought as well. And the last map is coming from GeoGlom. So we use systems of systems where we get information from different systems, and GeoGlom just this map corroborates the information and shows the field cropping situation in Southern Africa. So in summary, these are some of the things I thought would be interesting to highlight. So the gap still remains translating early warning to action, and I think Dr. Kijazi also pointed out to this. And a good case is the Southern Africa drought and also the floods that are happening in Eastern Africa, specifically in Kenya as well. They give us a good case to investigate the early warning chain and see how do we close the gap? How do we ensure that early warning information effectively translates into effective action that saves life? It's important to look at synergies across different initiatives and frameworks. So we have AMIWAS, we have Early Warning for All, we have CREWS, and we have any other initiative as well. And then we have DRR and climate change frameworks. The question is, how can we bring all these programs and initiatives to work together to optimize and maximize the benefits of the programs, but also how do we feed into existing frameworks or potential frameworks as well? I think it's been mentioned as well, the importance of cross-sectoral, multi-sectoral approach to multi-hazard early warning systems, but also this is important for effective action, whether it's immediate action, short-term action, or long-term interventions. We need to encompass this cross-sectoral, multi-sectoral approach. Multi-hazard early warning systems remain the key priority, and a systems of systems approach is required. When you look at multi-hazard systems, usually it gets inputs from different risk information systems as well. So the point is, as we are strengthening the multi-hazard early warning systems, which is almost the end system, we need to also strengthen the systems that feed into the multi-hazard system. We need to invest across the entire value chain of early warning systems. So that means investing in ground station, investing in focusing. How do we improve the focusing capacities? Multi-hazard systems themselves, impact-based focusing, analytics, dissemination, and communication as well. What is the opportunity here? I think we have an opportunity to leverage emerging technology to analyze and understand compounding and cascading impacts of hazards across time and space. So when you talk about multi-hazard, it does not just mean simply overlaying different risk information together, but we need to be able to integrate analytics that allow us to account for the impacts of the past droughts, sorry, let me just remove this. Let's see, just a sec, I need to remove this notification. Okay, good. So we need to integrate analytics that allows us to account for the impacts of the previous disaster into the ongoing disaster. A good case as well is the Eastern Africa region. 2022-2023 was the longest or the most protracted drought the region has ever experienced. And literally 2 weeks later, the region was facing flash floods as well. So the question is, when you're looking at the impacts of the flash floods, how do we effectively integrate and account for the impacts of the drought that the people have been facing? This brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I'm sharing some contact details if you would like to contact us. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much. Over to you, Katie.
Many thanks, Viola. I believe next we have Carolyn. Let me just.
Hello, everyone. So we've got another remote presentation coming up. This is from Colleen Yu, Early Warning Specialist from UNDRR Regional Office of Africa. She should be dialing in very shortly, as we bear with us.
Colin, can you unmute for me?
So we're trying to stick as closely as we can to running order, but of course with these
Colin,
remote
can you
presentations, it's
unmute
always
on
going to be a bit of a lottery just how accurate we can be as far as targets are concerned. And it's all part of the fun, though, right? How we doing? Any questions for Agnes, Viola? Yeah, Roloff. Hi. So,
I get a separate phone with an internet connection.
I think if we really want to get down to saving lives and infrastructure, we have to go down to the local scale. Say which rivers are flooding, where is the flooding exactly going to the road?
Yeah.
And I think technology is available these days, because yes, we can see a cyclone and we know it's going to be heavy rain. But for the local people, if they live next to a stream or so, I think what I'm missing in all these early warning systems is really going down to the local scale where the impact will be and where the lives will be lost. And I just wanted to know what has been done in that regard, really taking it down to the local scale and having people like 2 hours or 3 hours warning get out of the way.
no, that's a fabulous, interesting question. Yeah. It's not one I can answer personally.
She's come back. I'm just waiting.
So, yeah, that's another question. I think that, you know, it's absolutely crucial element, of course, is making sure that those lives on the ground are, you know, are protected in situations like that.
Should we move to one?
No, she's the next question. Okay, so we're still having some problems with Carly. So we'll move on to the next session unless there are any other questions. Let me get a mic.
Good morning. My name is Ezekiel from South African City.
Morning.
So is that a comment from me with regard to the last presentation? Just to say, when we built this continental program, let us please take into consideration programs, smaller programs in the regions that were previously in existence, so that we don't end up duplicating efforts.
Yeah.
I took particular interest to the slide that was shown about outside Hidaya. For noting in the region, there's the WMO designated regional center for tropical cyclones, who is supposed to be leading all the guidance of tropical cyclones. So when we have this coordination at the continental level, it would be useful to link up with those designated regional centers who have invested quite a lot of money and other resources into those initiatives. Thank you.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much indeed, John. Any more questions do we have? Or comments? How are we doing with the Wi-Fi then?
I'll come this way.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Segane Bafang from Eswatini. So my comment will be maybe on the multi-hazard early warning for all. Okay, my concern, I want to know maybe who should lead maybe the implementation of the action plan at national level. Is it our national disaster management agencies, or we should lie with the meteorological department? It's just yeah. And then on the same line again, I think I understand that it's ending in 2027. So
yeah,
my other concern is the 2027 not too soon, considering the various the resource constraints that are faced by many countries.
Yeah, well, that's that question for Agnes really.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. And I think it's because there was a technical challenge then. I said my colleague from UNDR will elaborate well. Yeah, the rollout that we are doing now at national level, we are involving everyone at national level. So, and at national level, we are going to have a standard operating procedures. So it's not just one entity that will be looking at this, but we are going to have a composition of all entities and with their specific responsibilities. Like now for national level, for us WMO, we know the mandate to give warning at national level to the public is for the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services of those countries. Now it will depend on now at these rollouts that we are going on with to know for other actions who is going to be leading those ones. But at the end, we expect to have it's like an institutional arrangement where everyone will be there to respond in case of any warning that is announced at national level. And beyond 2027, if you look at the plan, as I presented, there is a way forward. And that way forward is looking at sustainability. So this 5 years up to 2027 is just making a ground level at the national level to make sure that we are able to reach everyone within warning. But after 2027 now, the capability should be already built, and then the continuation will be there. And the plan is giving this way forward, the sustainability. What do we expect after 2027? The initiative for these 5 years is to make sure that we build capacity of countries, not only for Africa, but in the world, so that it will reach everyone. Can I respond to, I think there was another question, my colleague can respond to it, but he was asking how can forecast reach the local level? How can it reach the local level? Now, with this plan and the rollout that is going on, is looking at the end user, which is the local level. So the plan is looking for users at the local level. Maybe you ask that question after seeing the presentation of AMPEWAS, but there is a very good, someone talk about even the destination institution for WMO for these cyclones. So we have a very good infrastructure and a very good institutional arrangement for WMO to make sure that we reach the end users with the warning. But as I said, we have challenge. There is a gap, capability. And because of capability, my colleague who presented from AUC said we need to see how we can work together and make sure that there is no duplication of efforts, how we can coordinate these efforts. They need to be coordinated. Because even when you look at the products for the AMPEWAS, the regional one, is the product that they have input also from the existing infrastructure. So we need to work together to see how we can improve on this and have the marcation of these responsibilities, starting from regional to the national level. And the action plan is looking at that.
Thanks, Agnes. That was what is the answer. Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions?
My name is Elizabeth. I think for me, I come basically from the social science background. And whenever they talk about the local level, I always say, but there is a gap between the scientists and the social science people, which triggers action. It's like, if I say to somebody, there's going to be a snake here, everybody will be running, yes, because we fear. But if I say there's going to be fire, I say, oh, fire from where? Unless I see the smoke, even if you warned me before, I won't move. I say, I know it's somewhere next door. So in terms of technology development, how do we trigger that? And again, between the people and the financial institutions, because you say, okay, there is early warning, there's going to be drought. But then the farmers are punished by saying, no, we can't invest in your farm because you're going to, in any case, lose your crop or it's going to be wiped away by floods. So the policy network doesn't talk to one another, yeah, to say, how do you punish the victim? By maybe increasing the insurances or by refusing to invest in whatever, which leads out to food insecurity, farmer frustrations and so on, because the policies don't talk to one another. The scientists will come up with hardcore information, yeah, but it remains in that domain. It doesn't filter down to human-centered responses, yeah, for action.
That's extreme. Yeah, very well said. I mean, yeah. there's a lot of points there. There's obviously lots to do with nation as much as everything else, but
We'll move on to the next session.
okay. So I'd like to introduce now.
Sorry.
Oh, we have
Can
another
I-
question. Apologise.
No, can I just respond to a few of the questions that were directed at AMIWES? Just for 1 minute.
Of course, Viola.
Okay, thank you so much. So thank you very much for the questions, and thank you, Dr. Kijazi. I think you've tackled most of them. Elizabeth, I appreciate your comment about triggering action, and that is very true. And that's why I also said there is a gap between early warning and the action. And maybe a social scientist can come in and help us with this. You also mentioned the policy network and the fact that it fails to integrate. And that's why I mentioned as well that we need to look at it from a holistic perspective and develop integrated policies and ensure there's policy coherence across the continent as well. There was a question about the local. I wanted to give an example for Tanzania, for example. So once the AUC and supporting institutions issued the Continental Watch, I mentioned that we met with representatives from Tanzania, and from their information, they said in different parts of the country, there was local awareness and advisories that were going on to the communities themselves. So it did not just end at continental level, but these particular institutions, and as Dr. Kijazi mentioned, there is what we call the institutional mandate. So the Tanzania as meteorological and the DRR units were communicating, and they were actually holding hourly meetings just to monitor the situation and to continuously give feedback as well. So at the end of the day, coordination and collaboration is key across different partners, and even as Elizabeth mentions, across different sectors of the scientists as well. So the technical or the med scientists, the DRR scientists, and the social scientists need to come together to ensure the effectiveness of early warning information. Otherwise, we will have early warning, very good early warning, but it will not translate to saving lives and livelihoods. Thank you so much, Katie. That is what I wanted to highlight. Over to you.
Thank you, Viola.
Okay, so who we've got next? Okay, so Anna